All right, folks, welcome to part two of our Google Forms screencast. So in this one, we're going to look at kind of more of the in-depth options of Google Forms and how they works. So let's get started. On the right-hand side, you have some other options over here, including add title and description. So if I drop that in, what this is going to do is kind of introduce a new section, if you will, or introduce a new part of the form. So I can say, what is your name? And then in the title, I could say part one. And then now the questions would follow after this. So it kind of breaks my form up a little bit. Okay, the next one is add an image. And if I select this, it's a little bit different than, you're not adding an image directly to a question, you're adding an image just to the Google form. So I'll add this EdTech teacher logo here. And so when I drop that in, you can see that it drops the image in here. Great for if you're going to maybe insert an image and then have your students answer multiple questions in the form about that one image. Something to maybe consider. The next one over is add video, and when I do this, I can drop YouTube videos directly into my form. They play directly in the form, so it kind of keeps kids from going out to YouTube and getting distracted. I can search for those directly here, or I can add them by a specific URL if I wanted to. So I'll just go ahead and add one. See if I can find a crash course video to add in, and we'll talk about the War of 1812. And we'll drop that in. So you can see here's the YouTube video. I can give it a title. I can also have the options to kind of move this around if I want to and go from there. So the last thing is the section. So down here, this is what I was talking about. This is how you create multiple pages inside of a Google form. So you might want to do this if you have a longer assessment that you're using with your students and you want to break it up a little bit so they're not answering 100 questions in one Google form where they're constantly scrolling up. Add a section in, and you can see it almost separates it out completely, where you have this new section number 2 with these particular questions in it. So those are your options for adding information to the Google form. So pretty standard stuff, really good stuff though, and very exciting. Okay, so there's a lot more options if you look up in the top of your Google form. Okay, so your 3 lines are going to be kind of your main what are you going to do with this whole Google form? So the Google form as a whole thing. So like you can make a copy of it, delete it. Pre-filled links are neat, where I can actually fill this form out with several different pieces of information and then get a specific link that has that information already in it. So if you want to send this out to maybe littles that can't type all that well, maybe you want to think about using a pre-filled link where you fill a lot of this out for them and then they only have to answer a couple of questions. Okay, collaborators, if you want to make this form with another person, you can add them here. So this is like sharing a Google Doc. And then add-ons. So add-ons are going to be features that third-party companies have made that enhance Google Forms. So there's a lot of really neat ones in here. That's kind of a topic for a whole nother screencast. Okay, but I really encourage you to kind of check out these and see what you can find, as they are very, very powerful. Okay, then over here in settings. Okay, so in settings, you have a couple of things here that you can do. So you can collect email addresses, so that's one. You can also restrict to your domain. So this won't say EdTech Teacher in yours, but this will say your Google domain here. So that means that only people that have an email address with or a Google account with your domain can access the form. This would also collect those people's, your respondents' email addresses or their Google addresses when they fill it out. So something that might be useful for kids. Okay, the next piece here is limit to 1 response. So if you have that checked, then your students can only fill the form out 1 time. And then you have a couple of different options here where you can edit after the submit. So if you want your students or your people to be able to go back in, make changes, you can have them do that there. You can also have them see summaries of the responses. Okay. Presentation, this is some options here where you can shuffle the order of the questions, or you can show a progress bar if you have multiple sections. And then quizzes, so you can now make Google Forms quizzes. What this does, when you slide this across, now you have the ability to assign a point value to each question inside of the Google form and give it a correct answer. So you can make that formal assessment and then have it graded for you inside of Google Forms directly. So no need to use like Flubaroo inside of Google Sheets. You can just do this here. It's not quite as advanced as Flubaroo, but it does work. So you can see that I have two options immediately after each submission, means that the students will see their grade right away, or later after manual review, which means that I can go back in, look at maybe an essay question that I wanted the students to respond to that obviously would not be able to be graded by the computer, and give it a point value, and then release the grade to the students via email. So the students will be able to see it that way. Okay, so those are your options inside of there. Lastly, we want to look at the color palette here. So this allows you to change the color of your form, and you can also go down here and choose your own image and upload that to the background. That's kind of neat because when you see you have a whole host of different ones, themes that Google has given you, but you can also go down here to upload photos or your albums. And then when I add in a new Google form picture like this, it actually adjusts the background color to kind of match the theme of the picture in the image that I uploaded. So you can see that the kind of background changed to match the sky of San Diego. So when you're done with that and you want to send this form out, click on the send button in the top right hand corner, and here we go. You have a couple of different options. You can email this out to a Google group or to a specific student or a specific list of emails if you wanted to. If you go to this button now, you can see this is the link. So I can take this link and send this out, post it in Google Classroom for people to, for my students to get to, post it to my Google site if I wanted to. You can use the shortener. This will shorten it down, makes it a little easier for students to get to. If you have a web filter that blocks URL shorteners though, this will create an issue. This will actually block that. So something like Lightspeed, not a good thing to use with a URL shortener because that will block it. Okay, the last one here is embed. So if you do some website editing where you want to make sure that this is embedded into your website, you can use the code here and that will embed into your website for you. All right, so that's how we send it out. If you want to check before you send it on what it looks like, look up here in the eye, and that's going to be your preview button. So when I click on the preview, you can see this is what the ETT form looks like when my people will take it. So I can watch my YouTube video right here directly inside of the form. And I can go to next, and then here are my multiple choice questions. So you can see here are the two that I inserted images for. Okay, the maybe one did not have an image, so it comes up as blank. Okay, and here we go again. And I can hit submit, and my results will be tallied. So now I can look. I did not assign any point values, so if I did, I could have viewed my score, but there's not going to be any points. You can see this is what it would look like for the students here. Okay, so if I go back to my form, you can see I have one response, and I click on it, and now I get a summary of responses here, which gives me some really cool graphs on how people responded to my form, grades, and such. If I click on individual, then I can see each individual submission of the form and what those respondents answered. So I can see that I answered maybe to this question here. Okay, if I wanted to print these out, I could say print responses, and then that'll create a new document for me to print out, so I can maybe show parents, I could show principals, I could show whoever I wanted to. So you can see here are the different, here's the form that student responded or with. Okay, if I want to create and send all of these responses to a spreadsheet for further analyzation, it no longer automatically creates a spreadsheet. I have to tell it to do that. So you want to find this green box in the right-hand corner and click Create Spreadsheet. And now this is going to auto-create a new spreadsheet with your responses to your forms here. So I'll click Create. It'll do it very quickly. And there they are. So you can see I only have one response because I only answered one question. But all of my responses will show up here. So every time this form is now submitted, a new row will be created and all the responses will tally in this area. Okay, all right. So if I click lastly the three dots here, you get a couple of different options here, including email notification for new responses. So if you want to be notified every time somebody fills your form out, you can do that. Selecting a response destination tells you where you want the responses to go. So if I don't want them to go to this form anymore or this spreadsheet anymore, I can send them to a new one or create a whole new spreadsheet. I can unlink the form, which kind of takes it down, download all my responses, print all the responses, or lastly, I can delete them. So if I delete all of these responses, Now you can see the form resets itself. And if I go back into the sheet, this data does not delete though. Okay, so you can reset this form, but still keep the data in a spreadsheet. So that's kind of a nice way to clean it up if you wanted to. All right, so that is Google Forms, and it's really cool. It's a very fun tool. I hope you guys enjoy it. I think it has a great set of uses in the classroom, and it is something that is very versatile and works for many different things. So you just kind of maybe have to use your imagination as you go about using it. So that's all for this screencast. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, reach out, ben@edtechteacher.org. I'd be happy to help. Thanks. Have a great day.